Let's talk about the name that everyone still loves talking about, Tony. That's quarterback Zach Wilson of BYU. Had another monster game in his bowl just the other night. What is the thought process from league insiders on Zach Wilson as it stands today?
You know, I answered this yesterday in the question and answer, which I'm sorry, I answered yesterday. It was actually released today about noonish. This was something I heard last week, right before we did our podcast. And that is, a lot of league insiders believe that Zach Wilson will end up being a better NFL quarterback than Justin Fields. They love Zach Wilson. They think he's big time. They think the difference between Fields and Zach Wilson is Zach Wilson is quicker processing things on the field, reading defenses, reading coverages, making decisions, seeing what's going on. Doesn't just rely on the athleticism, which he does have. Now, this is not a mark against Justin Fields, who's had a couple of difficult games. This is just more to the fact that people really like Zach Wilson. And we talked about it when we first brought Wilson's name up more than a month ago. You know, people love his film, but it's the things off the field that people really like about him, the way he studies for games, the way he prepares mentally for games. I'm told he's going to be a great interview in the lead up to the draft. So there are a lot of people who believe, because of the way he processes things, because of the way he sees the field, the decision-making, that 2 or 3 years, if not earlier, Zach Wilson of BYU will be a better NFL quarterback than Justin Fields. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be selected before Justin Fields.
You beat me to it.
This is what a couple of people have told me. Justin Fields could still be the second quarterback taken, but 2 or 3 years down the road, Zach Wilson could be the better of the two signal callers.
Is this a situation where there's 3 quarterbacks good enough to potentially go 1, 2, 3, and that some team, even if whoever holds the number 3 pick doesn't need a quarterback, that some team is going to give a boatload of picks up to get number 3, and we could see back-to-back-to-back quarterbacks?
I mean, it could be. The reason why Carson Wentz went as early as he did was because of what went on in the pre-draft process, specifically the Senior Bowl. He was outstanding that year at the Senior Bowl, both not only his passing, but the leadership skills that he showed, which is why the Eagles made that big move. Now, neither Wilson nor Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence, for that matter, are going to have the benefit of participating in the Senior Bowl because they're not seniors, and I don't think any of them will. I mean, Carson Wentz coming into that Senior Bowl week was a late first-round pick, or bottom third of first-round pick, who, if he had a big week, was going to catapult to the top of the draft, which is exactly what happened. I mean, it's a possibility. You've got to wait and see what happens during the pre-draft process. What goes on in the interviews? What goes on during those board sessions? Are teams turned on by these guys? Do they think that more than having it on the field with the film, do they get it between the ears? If that all clicks and that all turns out to be answered yes, then I think there's a possibility, if it's not 1, 2, 3, maybe it's 1, 2, 4 or 1, 2, 5.
I think it was around October, maybe early November last year, I made my bold prediction that Joe Burrow would go number 1 overall, which came to fruition. So I should just shut up and not make any more predictions while I'm ahead. I'm going to predict right now, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Zach Wilson go 1, 2, 3 overall. Maybe not in that order, but I'm gonna predict that they go first 3 picks in the draft, all 3 quarterbacks. That's my bold prediction. You heard it here first, Tony.
Well, the irony is, 2-3 months ago, people were talking about Trey Lance being the second quarterback selected. I never was, because I think Trey Lance is a mid-first round pick, and I think the fact that he only played 1 year, started 1 year at a small school level, is going to raise some concern, in the sense that you're probably going to have to sit him for a year, although not his fault that North Dakota State only played 1 game this season. But, now we're talking about, is Zach Wilson going to surpass Justin Fields and be the number 2 quarterback selected? Regardless, and, we talked about the Jets at the top. Was this the worst win ever? The fact is, there is a lot of good quarterback talent in this year's class. You take Trevor Lawrence out of the equation, Justin Fields is a terrific prospect. Zach Wilson is a terrific prospect. Trey Lance is a good prospect, though it may not be for the 2021 season. Oh, yeah, you got to talk about Mac Jones. Then there's Kyle Trask. A lot of good quarterbacks. It's just that one guy, Trevor Lawrence, dominates the conversation, and understandably so.
Do you know how many quarterback attempts Trey Lance has in his career, Tony?
Passing attempts.
Yeah,
I'm going to take a wild guess. I'm going to say, let's see, 11, 15. I'm going to say 183.
It's a little bit more than that. It's 318 in his career.
Wow, a little bit more than that. Boy, okay. That was.
But I mean, still 318 pass attempts in his college career is crazy. Like that is a very, very small number of.
Well, I was thinking, how did I get 183? I was thinking they probably played well, that's right, because they probably played 3 playoff games, so they probably played a 15 game schedule in 2019. So 15, 20, should have 20 attempts a game. But he also ran the ball a lot. So
he did. But it's just going to be an interesting, because you go back and look at some of the quarterbacks, and you've brought this up in the past, some of the quarterbacks who have maybe only had one season, and some of the quarterbacks who haven't had a ton of snaps in their career. It hasn't necessarily turned out the best. And some of those guys have had, a significant more number of snaps than 318 that Trey Lance had. I think a number that you're going to hear, that everyone's going to hear a lot come draft time, is only 318 career pass attempts at a small school nonetheless, and at a small school that has a primary, run first offense in a lot of ways. It's a dynamic offense. It's a fun offense. Trey Lance is a hell of a talent. I really, really like him, but that's just going to be a number that I think is going to maybe scare some teams away.
Those one-year starters, are a concern. Dwayne Haskins of the world, the Mitch Trubisky's. You go back to Mark Sanchez, they will show flashes, but they don't have a lot of longevity. Now, again, as I've said with Trey Lance time and time again, it may be a situation where you draft him, you're going to have to sit him for the 2021 season, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, not at all. Sometimes that can work out for the best. Just ask Aaron Rodgers. There was a question. What do you think about the Jets possibly taking Zach Wilson? Could that be something that, I'm sure a lot of this is going to depend on what offense they're running and what scheme they're running to some extent as well. But could that be a potential fit in New York if, in fact, they don't get the #1 pick?
I think it would be a good fit for Joe Douglas, because I think what's going to happen is Zach Wilson will blow Joe Douglas away during the interview process, and, just talking about offenses and what goes on and the board sessions. So I think it would be a good fit. I don't know that Jet fans are going to be overly happy, although fans have ways of justifying things. Zach Wilson is a big-time quarterback prospect. He's got the physical skills. He's got the mind and the instincts to complement it. So he's going to be successful. It's just that his name isn't Trevor Lawrence.
No, it isn't. If people haven't had a chance to go and watch Zach Wilson with any sort of discerning eye, it's just one of those, and it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to end up good, bad, or indifferent, but he's just one of those players where you turn on and it's not difficult to see why scouts could potentially fall in love with the type of player that he is. Ball placement, accuracy, arm talent, athleticism. And then what you're saying is the off the field stuff is off the charts. That's the icing on the cake. And that's the sort of players that teams really start to fall in love with come draft time.
And he's a 3-year starter. Let's not forget. He's a guy that's got a good body of work behind him.
And I failed on my follow-up question before, Tony. Where does he stand in entering the draft right now?
There you go. I think it would be a major shock if he doesn't enter the draft. If I'm going to put a percentage on it, I'm going to say it's about 99% that he enters the draft. I know that his father's been doing a lot of work. His father has spoken with people, including the aforementioned John Dorsey, about certain things, not if John Dorsey would select him, if he was taken by a certain team, but what agents talking about different agents and things of that sort. So the father is laying a lot of groundwork. It would be shocking if Zach Wilson does not enter the draft.
I am right there with you, and it would certainly make my bold prediction look pretty stupid if he decided to stay at BYU next season. But I have a feeling he's going to come out based on where he's expected to potentially go next year in the draft.